I'm going to start by creating a new project, and I'm going to use the two modules, the scope to define tasks and the verify in order to check those requirements. I might like to start by creating milestones for each of these purposes. And in this example, we had 4 purposes. So if I had 4 different milestones, and the first one was for the logistics. So we might have a construction logistics milestone, and we might have the coordination milestone. This might be the underground coordination milestone, for example. Then on the left-hand side, we're going to start with a structure of maybe some folders. Maybe this is for the logistics model structure, and so on and so forth. And then on the left-hand side, we could use the library to start building up a set of requirements. So yeah, and Akash is putting in the chat, if you would like to look at some of these in our previous webinars, please just jump into those. In this example, the logistics model, we might want to select from a bunch of our existing definitions that we have here. And in our example, we said that we wanted to have the site fencing. So I can drag in the fencing, and I can also have existing structures, for example. And then I want to make sure that they are inside of this folder. So I'm dragging them to the right. Blue is good. You can see the structure of the lines of where you're going to drag it and drop it. And as we're doing this, we're building a list of items that could be required at certain points in the project. So yeah, let me jump to this one. Here's one I prepared earlier, where we have the site and maybe some attachments, maybe some descriptions and checklist items of exactly what I'm looking for. And now we can see we've got construction logistics, underground coordination, cost estimate, and the asset information model as 4 different milestones, along with, for example, the cooling towers are requiring things like the warranty end date, and even this is defined in much more detail, saying that the value, if I look at this, the value must be a date that is after a specific date. So we can get into a lot of detail about these requirements. Please look up the other webinars to understand a lot more about that.
If you think about it from ISO 19650 perspective, for example, so we are creating here the information containers, right? And these information containers would be pieces of information that we can manage through the entire project, from the very first draft till the handover and management of the project, putting everything. So first defining actually the purposes why we are doing something, then in a breakdown, finding out whether it's just a list of elements, list of items and tasks and deliverables that we have to create, or putting it into a more sophisticated classification structure, whichever serves your needs the best. And in this matrix, you would have these information containers, which are going to contain all the relevant information from geometry to attachments, to descriptions, to responsible parties, communicating also the shift of responsibilities and all those which are currently headaches.
Absolutely. Very, very well said. We are going to move to the second part of the demonstration, which is how do we check for what we've just asked for, and what is the process to understand before we use that model for the logistics simulation, what do we need to check? So let's take a look at the second part of this demo. It's not going to all happen at the same time. We're in the grid view at the moment of the scope. If we move to the timeline view, we will see all of these tasks and when they are due to start and finish, and making sure that we have the right resources assigned to them. I've assigned a lot of this to Akash because he's going to be working on these tasks, but making sure that we know when these deliverables are due and working per milestone or per phase or per stage or per deliverable, and being able to filter for all of those is really important across all of these views. So Akash is going to be working in the track page and updating that, and also in the verify and saying what is ready for review. I'm going to look at this and say, I'm a manager, and although I can see that they have created a full site logistics model at the moment, I'm not interested in reviewing the whole thing because I don't know how much of it is actually ready for me yet. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to go to the filter and I'm going to say, I only want to see, I don't care what status it is in, I want to only see what's completed. So Akash is saying that these two are complete. What are they and what are they related to? Well, if I look at the existing structures, I can see these are the elements that Akash is referring to when he says that the existing structures are complete, and they're complete to this amount. And he has checked himself that the height of these structures matches the brief. We could go through that and understand more about it, but my responsibility is to review and do the quality check on his submitted work. And the same way for the fence, maybe there are certain requirements. So maybe it's looking for certain geometry and including the materials and footings. And basically my work is made a lot more streamlined because all I'm doing is looking at the parts of the model that are complete. Maybe the hoarding, if I was looking at this, I would want to see it in context with some other content. So maybe I'd want to see the hoarding and see where it was in relation to the other parts of the logistics model. And when I was happy with this, I would simply say, I will verify these tasks and those tasks will go away. And if I was to see the whole model, there are now views of this model with certain color coding that show the status of these tasks. And if I can simply now see these are the verified items and these are the things that are unlinked so far and yet to be submitted to me. So this workflow can go on as people are building the model. You can catch the challenges, the problems as we go, rather than waiting until the end. If I was to go to the underground coordination and start to look for just the elements, the items that are in the model. So here we want to see the structural model and find out what Akos is submitting. So Akos is submitting here the foundations and then the zones of influence as well. So we can start to see, okay, the column foundations required certain aspects, maybe properties that were required as well on the elements. So we could identify what the properties are and see the properties on all of the elements. And look out in the future, actually, coming very soon, some big updates, two things that we're really excited about launching. One is the auto linking, and the other one is automatically checking. So this would be checked automatically and turn green if it was there. If it's not there, then it would show as red and we would not verify that this has been done. So look out for those. I'm going to check that these are done, and looks like this is just an element that needed to be added, and now we can see the whole building. And again, we can see the color coding to say these are the elements that have been verified and we are happy with, and these are the things that are yet to be done. We would look at the cost estimate. So again, I can see this, I can review it, each piecemeal rather than waiting for that whole thing to be done. And we can start, oh, yeah, nice, there's a QA issue. Akos said.
I think I found something, yeah. I ran into some issues on the concrete stairs, but
cool.
Maybe pursue.
And the same sort of principle, taking you through for the asset model, and maybe this is very repetitive to show you, but there are certain things that might be different in each of these. So for the asset information model, where we maybe have a lot more of this model coming together, and in this example, let's look at the whole model and see this is for cooling towers. Okay, great, there's a cooling tower. What did we have to do? We have to model its space, size, etc. We had some properties that needed to be there. We need to check points of connection. So is this connected? Looks like it's half connected maybe. And model with exact product size. So it looks like, yes, this does look like the exact product, and maybe there's warranty details and things that we need to check, and that will be automated for us before I say, okay, great, that's done. Everyone's happy. This is the status of the model. So quickly, we went through all that process, but the principle is that we don't want to release this model until the point when we are happy or published. And published status will be able to then be downloaded so that teams would then come in and be able to download that model and use it in other places. Or if they're integrated with the Autodesk Construction Cloud, we would be able to keep the models synced and keep them in one place just on the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Okay, we've covered a lot. We looked at how to define quickly some of those requirements down to the properties on elements, and also whether those properties were in a certain range or a certain date, or if it was warranty, for example. Then we looked at the verification of whether we had everything in place for each of these model uses down to the properties. And we hinted there at some of the exciting features that are coming soon, the auto linking and auto checking. So look out for those.